I believe we are live right here on Rebranders. My name is Anthony Goodson alongside my co-host Eric Russell. Hey, be sure to share for tonight. Share. I told my uncle I was going to text him as soon as I went on live. So be sure to share. Let's have fun. We have absolutely nothing to talk about tonight, Eric.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, but no particular direction to go with necessarily.
Well, we're going to try. I just sent me a text, told my uncle that I'm on. Y'all be sure to go out there and y'all do some sharing too. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff we can talk about, but I don't have anything on my mind right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start it off right. We're just going to start off with the lowest thing and see where this takes us. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Anthony Goodson, your host. This is Eric Russell. Next
Reset.
We have a few people watching now. Be sure to share the page. We're going to have fun tonight. We have nothing to talk about. It's just going to be us two, it looks like. So anyway, Eric, what's going on?
Man, nothing, man. Just get through work today. Got the kiddos right, and had swimming tests with the kiddos, man. Just get back, just hanging out. Finna make this happen with this podcast tonight, though. I'm excited to see what happens with it.
Well, we'll see. It looks like we got a third in. Here we go. He saw that we went live, so he decided to jump on quickly. I bet he's sweating all under his pitch trying to put his t-shirt on.
I had to test y'all out to see where y'all minds was at.
Hey, look, next week, y'all, join us. We have a show called The Remedy to Racism. We'll touch on that a little bit tonight, but we really going to hit it next week. All right, so we got a comment. Let's go ahead and go to the comments real quick. Facebook, we are live. I imagine that's Leonard. Yes, Leonard.
Hashtag live. Get it.
Live and in effect.
Is that Leonard?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's a Facebook user. I know that for sure.
Well, there you go. All right, so anyway, like I said, we don't have a whole lot we're going to talk about tonight. It might not even be a full hour, don't look like. But the remedy to racism is what we're going to talk about next week. And I think that's a very good subject for us to hit because it makes you think. Everybody can come up with all kind of antidotes as to how to fix their own life or how to fix someone else's life or how to fix a car or fix this or fix that. But see, one of the biggest problems plaguing America today, and always, in my opinion, since 1865 at least in Texas, is racism. Racism has never been remedied. So what exactly would y'all do or say is the antidote to fix that? And that's what we're going to talk about mostly next week, but we'll touch on it now. So what do you think?
Oh, I don't want to give away too many of the gems, but I think that it's going to start with everybody taking a real good look in the mirror and looking at ourselves. That's definitely a starting point.
I'm gonna say it like this, man. It's so big of a complex problem. It's like poverty, you know what I'm saying? There's no one remedy to it. So it's gonna be a complex. Start from foundation, plug some stuff out. We talk about this all the time, plugging things out, adding things in. And honestly, I'm curious: is there remedy, or are there remedies for racism? Like, is it even something that can be even attacked and tackled?
Well, I often wonder, like, is there a remedy for anything, really? I mean, you having issues in your marriage. Is there a remedy to fix the issue that you have? Or do you just kind of mask it, or do you compromise? What do you do? So when you're talking about racism, which is such a big disease or plague or whatever you want to call it, I believe there's a remedy. But I believe that the unfortunate part about the remedy is everyone has to kind of be on board. White, black, racist, the government, systemic situations, everybody has to be on board. Because if even one thing is left at the end, and we're back at ground zero. I mean, I just don't, square one, wherever you want to be. I don't really believe that's that is possible. I think there's a remedy, but I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's a remedy, like you said. It may be a remedy, and I think it's possible to snatch some of it out. But I think you brought up a good point when you brought the comparison in with a marriage. If you got a problem in your marriage, you got two people. That's a whole lot easier to deal with two people as it is to deal with how many people in America, right? So dealing with two people, you may mask it, or you actually may go to a therapist. You may figure out that this is the issue. Let's solve it. Boom. I do this. You do that. Bam. We good. But it takes two people on the same page trying to solve it. So that's where it starts. You gotta get people on the same page going in the same direction, and that's often really difficult to do, even with just two people.
So Leonard made the comment, which I think is a great comment, kind of going along with what you just said. What's on the other side of the remedy? First, have to uncover what type of result is desired. And you know what? I think that's usually the problem that we have to deal with. Is the problem is everybody don't want the same thing, but the remedy don't look the same for everybody.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. Thing about this remedy is there's a lot of working components that are gonna have to work together. You know.
Well, and then you got lots of words that don't mean the same, but they kind of go together. Like you have stereotypes, you have racism, you have what's the other one? Prejudices. There's a lot of words like that. They have their own meaning. They're close enough to the others, but yeah, you might eliminate one, but you still got those other ones, and so you might still see the same results. Let's go back to the comments real quick. It says, what are we replacing racism with? And what will that look like?
That's the thing about America. We don't know because we've never not known. From day one, there's never been a time without it. So that's the unknown. I think, Leonard, that's actually it sounds crazy to say. I think that's actually a fear that's going to have to be faced together as a country, because that statement there that question is amazing, because it puts it all out there.
I think another part of what we're going to talk about next week, and we're going to do a lot of, we can have a part 2 next week and kind of just talk about it as much as we want to today, but reparations, let's get on that for just a second. We've had that conversation before. And you talk about the remedies of racism. I think reparation plays a huge part in that, because with the right education, the right amount of money, and all these things, economically, we'll start looking different. People, especially if you make more money, Deion Sanders say you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good, they pay good. If you make more money in the real world, you feel different. Is that right, or am I wrong? I guess dope dealers and prostitutes don't necessarily have a different feel or a different outcome. What do y'all say?
I think you feel good, but the point that we're talking about though is like, with reparations is it's not necessarily the feeling. It's the actions after you receive it. It's that what are we gonna do with it? It's like it's just like right now, somebody can come to us and say, "Hey guys, I love Rebrand Us. I want to write you guys $1 million check." We could go blow it. We each can go get us some Bugattis and blow it, or we could put it into the platform and grow. So it's like, what do you do with it? Because we'll feel good either way.
I got a question. I'm cheap. Is a Bugatti a suit? What we talking about here?
It's a car.
That's a bowl of soup. It's food. It's a car. I thought Bugatti was.
What kind of soup y'all think I'm talking about? We talking about $1 million. What, we got gold truffles in there or something?
Yeah, but you know what? Y'all know the old saying. This is the hardest part about the remedy of racism. See, we might be able to get white people to say, you know what? Let's give them a chance. Problem is, you can take the person out of the hood or the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out of the person. That's where you right back to square one.
That's what they say about dashiki.
But rolling on the floor laughing. I'm imagining that's Leonard. Thank you, Leonard. Keep them coming, Leonard. We appreciate you. Hey, look, for those of you who are just joining us, Rebrand Us. Today we're talking about the remedy of racism. That's what we're talking about at the moment. That's our full show next week. It might change as the show go on. If you got any questions, any comments, feel free to join us and tell us what you think the remedy to racism is. All right, so we just made the. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I'll say this. I think Ace put that question out there on our Facebook page the other day too, and appreciate you, the ones that responded to that. And we'll probably repost it again, because it's a conversation that we could probably continue having and having. And I think you have to be realistic about anytime remedy or anytime, excuse me, anytime a solution. You have to look at it long term. It's not going to happen overnight. The problem didn't start overnight. So it's probably going to take a whole lot longer to solve that problem. And then there's things in this problem that's actually being institutionalized that's going to make it even more difficult to solve this problem, right? So I think we got to be understanding of, we got to understand what progress looks like, and we got to identify what that looks like, and then go towards the progress, and then but then still go towards the solution. I think oftentimes you don't see the solution immediately enough, and you kind of just regress from the progress you made, and then the progress you made goes away because you didn't recognize it. So I think we have to recognize the direction you're going. If you started at point 0 and you're going to get to point 5, hey, that's something. You know what I mean? So,
but you know, it's very interesting. If you as an individual are in debt and you as an individual can't seem to get it together, what happens is someone gives you the great idea to budget. What I need you to do is get a sheet of paper and a pen, write down your bills, write down how much your check is, start budgeting, try to figure out this thing, right? And we're gonna get yourself in a pretty good situation. But now you're working by yourself. It's all about your persistence, your desires, your goals, your this, your that. The remedy to racism is so hard because you have so many different personalities, so many different cities, so many different states, so many different scenarios. It's not just one. Racism is not one thing, it's many things. So the remedy to racism is extremely hard because everybody, I always say in a relationship, what's the most important thing? Everybody say, oh, communication. I've always said respect, but we're both wrong.
Sex.
The most important thing in a relationship is what you're not getting. It's the 20. The 80-20 rule is the 20. If you're not getting the 20, then you feel like that's the most important thing. So when you have people out there, if we had a poll and we said, what's the remedy to racism? I can almost see everybody having a different answer except for the crab in the barrel answer. And since we can't figure out what the result should be, like Leonard said earlier, I can see how it could be very hard for us to get there. Let's go to the comment real quick. It says, I think there are multiple steps within the true answer. You probably have to take a few steps back and start with the question, how do we get to there?
Don't be adding this letter for him. He says star.
Hey, by the way, you mentioned the word poll. This got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but it triggered in my head text message today about the polls that's coming up in this month in November for the governor of the state of Texas, and they said that Beto, how you say his name, O'Rourke, and Greg Abbott are tied. So I'm gonna just put that out there right quick. Make sure you do your research about your local and state candidates, so we can get this. That could be one way to kind of attack racism in a different way too. So anyway, get out there and vote.
Yeah, it's patience. Because Beto, if he come in, and I say it like that because he's not our current governor, but if he come in, things may not even change. We may not see it. But sometimes if what you see is all you see, you don't see all that there is. A lot of times the things that are happening that you don't necessarily see, because most of us are not connected. All right. So anyway, remedy to racism. Talking about that next week. All right, Ace, you just joined us. What's going on? How's your week?
It's going pretty good, man. I definitely got to take a break from social media, man. Right now, us as a culture, we're not looking good. We're not looking good at all. We sit here talking about, next week we're gonna speak about the remnant of racism, and we just keep adding fuel to the racism fire. Did you see the young guys who beat up the manager at Hooters?
Yeah, in Plano, Texas.
He escorted them out and they couldn't sell candy. So these guys were like 10 years old, 10 through 14 years old. Now, I can't lie, I was impressed. Their hands were immaculate. That hand game was immaculate. But that type of behavior there is the kind of behavior that's going to keep us as a culture, as a race. With that kind of culture, with that type of behavior there, we'll always be yelling Black Lives Matter. Because we'll always have to remind people that they matter, that we matter, because of behavior like that.
So I like what you just said there, Ace. The very beginning, what you just said, honestly, the most important to me, I think,
the hands.
Being careful about the social media that you allow to ingest your system, right? Because I know we were brand us, and so I know part of our something we're trying to accomplish right now is to be problem solvers. And so, how do you solve a problem like that? And we're talking about removing racism, so that's a huge problem. So, me myself, what I've decided recently, because I get caught in that trap sometimes too, where all you see is negative stuff about Black people. You see negative stuff about white people. You see negative stuff about the society. You see negative stuff about the culture, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different things that happen on social media that I don't pay attention to sometimes because it don't have that negative connotation too. I was talking to somebody the other day about this young teenager, Black teenager on the bus, right? He was on the subway somewhere in the East Coast, and he was reading a book. And then another gentleman, older gentleman, he was had a career, and he saw the young kid reading the book, and he asked him, "What you want to do with your life, or whatever?" So he's talking about career stuff. That's not ever going to hit the news reels like some. What's going on, Anthony? I'm so confused right now. What's going on?
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
I'm so confused. But anyway, so I think we definitely can control what we ingest for sure as a culture, and then we start putting out there more positive images of ourselves. When we brothers, we have a media platform ourselves, so we can put stuff out there on our Facebook page about stuff like that. So I would like to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. We got to identify those issues, like you're saying. I think Ace, we can't be beating up people just because they tell us something we don't like, but also too, let's also focus on what it is that we do well too.
And the main thing is, we can't support. It's like those kids beat that man up. It took men up, and us as a community, we'll support those kids.
But let me tell y'all how I've said this before on the show. So I think you made the comment that they taking us back and stuff. We've always said that. That's always been the conversation in the black community. Anytime one black person does something wrong, they took us back. First of all, how much respect do you have for the white community? That's one. And the two is, why are we why are the worst of us compared to the best of everybody else? We got some nutcases just like everybody else do. We shouldn't be ashamed of us having nutcases. And we're not even having these conversations with white people. We're having these conversations with us, comparing us to the best of everybody else.
It's the old saying. It's the old saying that they used to tell you, that the old folks used to say. You got to work 2 times harder just to get one step ahead. Unfortunately, this is the position that we in. You got to play your position because this is the position that you're in. We don't have the luxury to have nutcases and it's not being talked about and stuff like that. At this point in time, in reality, in life, every black person is representing every black person.
But what exactly does that mean?
Do you
really believe that you believe? Okay, so you have a job, you working.
So time out for a second. Time out for a second. Please chime in on this conversation. I love this conversation. So you on Facebook watching it, please chime in your opinions about this. Do you think every black person represent every other black person? And
at this point in time,
we had that in there for sure. Give your opinions about this topic. This is good.
I'm glad you posed it like that, because my answer to that is absolutely not. I think that adds fuels to their conversation fire. But I don't think that I represent you. If Adrian gets fired at his job for not doing a very good job, I don't personally believe they just won't hire another black person because Adrian, who's black, didn't do a very good job.
You better believe it, because I'm asking for food. They ain't going to want to hire nobody.
But I mean, and that's happened before. And don't get me wrong, there are some racist cities, there are some racist companies, there are some racist. In fact, we both work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I'll say their name. And it was a glass ceiling in Enterprise Rent-A-Car for all the years we worked there. We hardly ever saw anybody get above the level that we were at. Okay, so yeah, for that's different though. It's not how anybody behaved. That was the nature of the company. Okay, but I don't believe that when you see 3 or 4 black dudes out in the community, they represent doing something negative. They represent all black people in the United States or even in the city. Now, don't get me wrong. If I go to let's say Inglewood or some of the Compton, some of these scary places, I do believe that if I saw a black dude out there, my assumption might be all of them out here act a certain kind of way because of the place where I'm at. But I don't just put that on everybody else. And I don't think the white people do that either. They do when it's to their benefit. If they wear that pointy cone hat, they might do it. Let's go to the comments. It says, we don't think because of who we are. They think because it reinforces how they feel and exactly what they've been told about us. I'll take that. But that's a little bit different. That's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, it is. He's saying, because that's what I'm saying. In the eyes of America. See, what he's saying is, you don't think that because you're a black man and you know who you are, you know how you stand, and you know other black men, like some gentlemen that's on the show with you, that have the same views and values as you do. However, we're the only ones who feel like that. The eyes of America.
But see, you missing the back part, and I don't even know if it's Leonard, whoever put it on there. I don't know if they understand.
That's Leonard.
He said they think it because it reinforces. We talking about people who are already racist. Reinforcement. These aren't just. Let me ask y'all a question. How much or what percent of America, white America, do you think is actually racist?
Put that on the poll.
I say 75.
You got to answer this question.
You got to
think. Okay, so if 75% of America think you're racist, 25% of what you do is actually true. I don't even know if that makes sense. I understand it. And we can talk it through.
I just agree with you because I don't want to make you look bad on the show. I just agree with you.
But and Eric, what you say? What percent of white America do you think is actually racist?
Actually racist. I think it's 50-50. I think down the middle. And I'm including some people in the 50 that just don't know that they're racist.
That's why I said 75, because you have the quote unquote racist, but then you have the other people who still won't take your word for, they won't believe you, and they don't believe in racism, so that makes them part of the problem.
Now I'm gonna change it. That's 50%. But I'm gonna say take those people that don't know the racist out. I'm gonna say that's the people that they are prejudiced to the extent that they don't. I think behind everything is the intent, right? So prejudice, not just having a bad intent behind it, it's just what you've been told, like we're talking about right now. But racism has that intent behind it, that you're going to. It's intentional, right, to have this thought about somebody that's based on how they look or whatever case may be. And so, if we're talking about it from a baseline standpoint, then we never gonna change those people's minds. They got to experience that for themselves. And once again, I've never been the ones to try to change anybody's mind. I'm gonna be who I am because I'm comfortable with who I am. But the people that's prejudiced, that's the people we can educate, and that 50% or 75% can drop down easily with a conversation down to 50, down to 40. The case, that's how I look at it anyway. I'm a positive. I'm an optimist. I'm about missing my word. I'm an optimist. Now I'm a realist at the same time. I know that this problem is tough. I understand that it's gonna take a lot of work to get there, but I think it can be done. But it's going to continue to take conversation. And I like this comment. I already read it.
Actions can make a person who isn't racist see truth in the words of someone who is racist, and that's absolutely true. That I can agree with. I can even add some of that to the comment we were talking about earlier, to his point, of course. But if I had to guess, I'd say 33% of American public is racist. 100% of the system is racist, and that right there makes everything else null and void. It's hard because systemic racism, when it's automatically ingrained in the very fiber of America, and then you can't tell the difference. You don't care, because the people who are not being discriminated against, well, they don't know any more than what you don't know, and so they can't say anything because they don't know. Anyway, Eric, you were saying something.
I'm thinking about it from the Black community standpoint, right? So I think we have to be careful about our perspective about us. So go back to what you said earlier, Ace. I believe, in regards to people, one Black person doing something negative and it kind of being on my back, and I'm representing everybody else. I think that's a huge responsibility, and I take on to some of that, right? But I take more than about being a Russell. My last name is Russell, so I'm representing the Russells. Melissa, my kids, my family, all my sisters and brothers. I take that representation on for them. But I think because of that kind of stuff right there, I think the Black community kind of takes on their persona of the racist white community. Because if somebody like me, look like me, did something stupid and hurt somebody else unapologetically, especially, then I'm gonna be really negative against Black people. And guess what? This is how white community look at it, mental health, right? So let's say that person had a really bad day that day, and they had some stuff on their mind. So I don't know what's going on. I don't ever think that's mental health is a reason for people to kill people, anything like that. But I'm just saying we have to be, I think, thoughtful about what people are going through. What people go through definitely progresses what they do in out there. Did y'all see this? What's this cat for the Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders? The photographer. He got mad after the game. They lost the game, and he was pretty hot. He had threw his helmet on the sideline. Devontae Adams, and he walked off. He pushed the photographer, and guess what? He getting sued.
I saw a different angle. The photographer ran in his path. But I know it's a something. It's a something.
They had different angles. I didn't see that one, but they had different angles.
Yeah, but it was different. He showed us.
So in that case, Devontae Adams is a football player, right? So we're gonna say all football players are bad because all the football players think they all bad because Devontae Adams did that one thing? So I don't think Black people take on that responsibility either.
Well, this is the thing. We shouldn't, but America doesn't hate football players like they hate Black people.
Well, we saw what's the basketball player that played for the Golden State
Draymond Green, absolutely.
throw that punch the other day.
What are you kid?
I will say this. I say that we ain't getting passes. I say that with the most terrible English. We ain't gonna get no passes.
No
I
ways.
will say that.
No ways.
Now, but I don't necessarily think that we're compared. Like it's harsh for us to compare the worst of us to the best of them. But we ain't gonna get no passes. I say that.
No passes. Not at all.
I'll give you a prime example. There was a man. Well, I guess it was in the '60s. There was a man in a town in Texas, a town called Sulphur Springs, and there was a young man named Tony Goodson, and he was the first African American young man to integrate and go to a white school. What if Tony Goodson would have acted a plumb fool when he got to that school? Do you think they would say, "Oh, that Tony's a bad one," or do you think they would have said, "See, I told you, those niggas are no good"?
They would have said the latter, without a shadow of a doubt. But you throw your hands up like this, like you made a point. The question was, in 2022, you talking about 50 years ago. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier playing in the they were throwing balls at the man's head and all this stuff. They told him, hey, you gotta, stay the course. It's a different day and age back then. I think those same racist people, they're dead and gone, but their kids are here and their grandkids are here. And they taught their kids and their grandkids the same thing that they believed and they know. Not all of them, some of them. So yes, some of them are going to be reinforced by what they've seen. But I just don't believe that one isolated individual situation even represents their city, or even the black people on that street. So that situation that happened in Plano was just a situation. It really was. And I saw it. I saw it on the news. And guess what? Their color never came up.
It didn't have to. It don't have to no more. You know what?
That's a step up. That's part of the remedy to racism. Now, if you put that in a newspaper, if you put it on the radio, somewhere where you have no visuals, you can only hear, see, read, then it changes the game.
They wouldn't
now I don't know
black
the race.
males. They would have said 3 black animalistic crazed teens.
But see, that's a part. See, listen, the remedy to a lot of diseases that people have the most unorthodox. You like banana peels. If you read the back of the bottle and tried to see what the ingredients are, you might say, what is a banana peel going to do for my headache? You know what I'm saying? It's a piece of a banana peel in there, but that's part of it. Don't make sense to you, but it makes sense. So when we talk about the remedy to racism, some of the little small subtle things don't make a whole lot of sense to you right now. But that small subtle thing goes a long way.
That was a clear example though, the potassium. So you got to come with something different on that.
Potassium get a real headache.
Potassium. Okay, 3 syllables. I like it.
I mean, all of it's gonna lead to the way they feel when they see these bad representations. It'll all lead back to the same nomenclature. It's all gonna
we knew he was gonna get that word. He studied that one all week long. You're watching Rebranders. I'm your host, Anthony Goodson, along I was about to say both of y'all names at the same time. Adrian the A. Stinson and Eric Russell. Got lots of random conversations going on. We would like for y'all to join in on this. Tell us what y'all like to talk about. We recently talked about the remedy to racism, and does one black person, the actions of one black group of people represent, and I'm talking about small group, 2 or 3 people, represent the whole country. That's what we just finished talking about. Let's keep the conversation going, fellas. What y'all want to talk about?
I want to talk about, I forget her name, but so there was a young African American lady at OJ University, and that's USC for some of y'all who don't know.
I didn't know.
But she
Roberts. So.
But she brought the the majorettes that we see at the HBCU. She brought that to USC, and they came in doing their walk. The majorettes, they come in walking, serious with the swag, and it's kind of serious, sexy, swaggy, things like that. They come with the band and stuff, and black folks were mad and white folks were mad. And I want to get y'all take on that. So black folks were mad because they were like, stop bringing our culture to predominantly white institutions. Stop giving them what we have. White folks were mad because they just flat out didn't like it and they thought it was, ghetto.
And it was at a HBCU?
No, it was at USC.
Oh, that's right. You did say that. OJ University.
You know, the main dress, the young ladies who walk out before the band, they had that strut and stuff like that. And it wasn't appreciated by either race.
Again, I think go back to perspective again. I think that I'm going to say this first. I'm going to preface by saying this. For a lot of the people, for a lot of white people, it's the first time they've seen that. So, again, let's take it back to take it on a personal level. So, let's say that you are trying to lose weight and you are eating cauliflower or broccoli for the first time. Probably not gonna taste that good. You probably gotta force yourself a little bit to like it, add some salt and pepper to it, whatever case may be. What you gotta do to keep eating it? So again, you see, you may not like it, but you may do some things and you may change your perspective about it and it can change. But initially you didn't like it. So I think that's by some white people, I think that's what it is. The black people is interesting though. I think that's the part we can control a whole lot more than anything else. How we perceive ourselves and what the purpose of about all our
I'm glad you said that because this part now what you finna say next is what I think is part of the remedy too. Go ahead.
I'm done right now. I'm gonna stop. I hate rambling, so I'm keeping let somebody else do it.
Well, I'll say this: we're talking about USC black folk. First of all, there's not even HBCU in California, so they don't know anything about that culture.
No, I'm not talking. Let me rephrase. I'm not talking about the black folks at USC. I'm talking about black folk. Period. Was mad from other places all around the country were pissed off at it. They was like, quit giving out.
I gotta be honest, I don't really think it's a real story. I mean, I believe you telling the truth. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's like
what's the hoopla about it?
Yeah, she was catching a lot of backlash. And to me it was kind of like that people were saying that's almost like a form of segregation in a sense. Keep that over there. We don't want that here. Keep it over there. Hey, don't take that over there. Keep that here with us.
I don't know. I got no real opinion about it. I think that there's some things. Listen, there's some things in our culture that I like that I don't think we need to share. It'll be borrowed, but it's not going to be at the same level. Like rap music, for example. I'll say that Eminem is probably the greatest rapper of all time.
I'm finna say, you gonna get rid of M?
I'll say he's the greatest. And number 2 is probably Vanilla Ice. But
we talking about who?
Insert laughter.
Go ahead.
Insert laughter. They didn't laugh like I thought they would. It's okay to share portions of it, but that's something that we bring. There's so much to our culture that we bring, and really it's just for us. They can buy it. We want them to buy it. But you just
shouts out to Mr. Kringle, by the way. A lot of people don't know, but Vanilla Ice is actually a fan of the show. Go ahead.
Kringle?
That's his last name?
I thought it was Van Ripple.
It sound the same. I don't know. You say ain't y'all Kringle, Van Ripple?
What? Okay.
Van Winkle or something like that. I don't know.
Yeesh.
He probably ain't a fan of the show no more. We can't even get his name right.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so remedy to racism is what we're talking about next week. Gonna have a great time talking about that. We touched a little bit on reparations. I know we've talked about that a couple times. Do y'all think that reparations? I want y'all to think about it. Audience too. Think about reparations for a little bit. Now we know that 40 acres and a mule is gone. We also know that they can't just go and give the black community $15 trillion. We know that can't happen. And think it's gonna be okay. Like, here you go. Tell me what y'all think a true remedy or a true reparations look like in 2022.
Well, first of all, let me state, no matter what I think, I'm willing to try that 15 trillion first. And let me put
you know what? You are, and we all would. If they say let's take a vote, everybody's gonna be like, give me my money. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be like that. And I know that's the worst.
I'm gonna tell you what, because I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be a vulture and prey on the black community just like they are. If all that money come, I'm gonna be right in line. Give me some of that. Good old buffoonery money that's gonna come out.
$15 trillion wouldn't go as far as you think. I would imagine you divided by 50 states. You divided by 40 million people. You divided by the land, the business, this, that, all the stuff that they're gonna do. You're half black, half white, half black, half Mexican, and so forth and so on. See, 15 trillion wouldn't go a long way, and it would go even less if you don't have the education. So I personally think it's a 15 to 25. A lot of us gonna get the money and never see the money, in my opinion. If it was up to me, I'm gonna give you $15 trillion, and then you know if you're not here in 20 years, you're not gonna see it. But this money must make sense to the community. Educationally, it must make sense. Land-wise, I mean, 40 acres and a mule is part of this. So acreage, business, all of this. So you're not gonna get probably a dime, but your community gonna get so much that it'll trickle down to you and your children.
I got two things to say about
really
this.
Gonna kill each other.
Before you say what you gotta say, let's go to the comments real quick. All right, my man, Mar Anthony Hubbard. What? Oh, God, I already messed that up. Hey, can you read it for us?
You had to slow down and try to breathe and enunciate. Would you use that money to put it back into the Black community by supporting Black businesses?
Absolutely.
Now, Martin, that's a two-part. Now, I'm like Goodson. Absolutely. However, just because it says Black business don't mean they get none of this green cheddar I'm handing out.
Go ahead, Eric. I know you had something to say before I cut you off.
No, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm saying if you look at it from a deeper level anyway. So I've been doing my research about just money and contracts and different businesses, things like that. So depending on who you talk to, man, there are programs out there that are out there for specifically minority groups, whether it be women, whether it be Black people, whatever case may be. And some people will consider that some form of reparations. But again, what you're saying is education is super, super important. And information is not readily available, right? So as we get more information about these things and become more less averse to go after these things, I think some of the reparations in that form can come out more forthright. But I also think it makes you think about money and what caused the separation outside of the treatment of Black people, right? But I definitely think money has a part in the separation of Black and whites. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about what is the bigger causes? What are the causes of the separation between white people, Black people, whatever case may be? Like I said, no treatment of Black people in the past, and even in the present, and money is somewhere in the middle, somewhere up top, right? Are there any other reasons why there's separation in between the two races?
Oh man, that's a very good question, Eric.
It goes back to Goodson's favorite thing, system.
Well, I think the very basic portion of it is just a simple skin color. You are different than me. That's it. I mean, in America, there was in the 70s, they had women's liberation. You were different than me. Men were different than women. In the 40s, whenever Pearl Harbor was bombed, they went out and they got all the Japanese people and put them in these concentration camps because you were different than me. Not because Japan bombed us, because you Japanese. You're different from me. And like as if they were going to infiltrate the rest of the country. And that's just what it is. Because you are different. The poor and the rich can't get together because you are different. Mentalities, two friends, if one is going up and one is going down or staying the same, they can't be friends for too long. Why? Because we're different. And I think that's just it. Our culture is just different. And once we understand that we have different cultures, and if we can embrace that part of it, then that's when we start winning. They love our culture. They love it because they can make money from it. There's so much from it, but they love our culture. But once we get past our differences, that's the hardest part. That's the remedy to racism. Then, I think we'll be okay.
So it seems like you're saying like the money part came in because they can make money off the culture and steal ideas and steal some of the skills and talent some of the people in our community have. Which goes back to the whole monetary thing, right? To being part of the separation. But also, you feel like the remedy in some part in what you're saying is if they take their culture and actually accept it from a genuine standpoint without anything to gain from it, it might be helpful. Like, if I learn about what you do and how you guys do it, but I don't get anything from it, but I come from a place where I really want to understand it. It might be that's a bit different from like, oh yes, that's cool, I like it, and I'm gonna get some money from it, right? That's a different mentality, different intent.
Well, I think my understanding of the question that you posed from was, if you eliminate money, that was my understanding. But if you add money, first of all, we've always been money. As you know, in the 1700s, when black people came over here, the white man was trying to, create sugar cane, and they couldn't get it. They couldn't get the sugar cane to grow. They couldn't get it all, set up like they wanted to, because that was big money, like it is today. And so what happened was the Africans came over. They were like, "Master, you're doing it all wrong. This is how you do it. You got to do it in this kind of land, so forth. So this time of year and all that stuff." And then, it just grew exponentially. Can I use that word? And so that's how they learned slavery was a great move for them, because we were tilling the land in Africa and we knew how to do it over here. So money has always been their greatest asset, with us. And so I think that, you have to understand that number one is money. Number one is money. Who's the most loved individual in America? Probably Michael Jordan. Probably, maybe even Kanye West. You never can tell. Whoever it is rich and famous, but most importantly, rich. Okay, there's not a lot of just Martin Luther King is loved now. He wasn't loved at the time. He never was rich. Rich folks always get it. I saw something today that you got to understand how money works, how to get money, the mentality of money, and all this stuff. But money is it rules a lot. The Bible says money answers all things. So I think the number one thing we have to offer in our culture is money. If we can show them how to make more money from it, I say them, I'm talking about whoever it may be, that's the win right there.
That was eloquently placed in position.
I'm glad you woke up and listened. Thank you very much.
Even though I have such thing called, honestly, I'm from the black community. Some of us have allergies.
I ain't paying attention. Hey, so real quick though, so you said also about the differences because you look different than me, they look different than us. So why do you think this younger generation is having sound like they're really intentional about trying to be different? Period. Anything we've done right, they want to do it differently than what was done before them. So it's like it's very intently to be different.
It's that I don't know, but first, can we ask, how does Goodson Cup keep getting filled up? Every time he drinks down, it's always to the rim, and he's stretching it down. Is that Vitamite that they was drinking on Good Time, or that's tonic?
Watch this. No, you know what, Eric? I think very good question, and I think that all cultures across the board,
and is it a good thing?
Everybody across the board is different. Me and my daughter, we were reading something about birthdays a couple months ago, and we were looking at people born in the same years that I was born, and everybody were either actors or athletes, or these are the celebrities, right? We looked at the people the year she was born. Of course, she's only 19 years old, so it's you're not going to have the same kind of celebrities. But everybody was TikTokers, YouTubers, all those things. It's a different world, and I'm not even. We would all love to just continue to throw the social media world in there, but the world that they grew up in is not the world we grew up in. We grew up in the same world our parents grew up in. Of course, they had a whole lot more segregation and all those things. But we grew up in a very similar world to them. Now, they might differ. They might, our parents, if you're over 60 years old, please let me know if y'all disagree with that. But we grew up in a very similar world to our parents. This world here is like none other. Nothing we've ever seen. And it's going to get, I ain't going to say worse, because it's not necessarily worse, but it's going to become even more different from what we used to. Let's go to the comments. I think that it's due to them being more individualistic.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like when you watch the movies with the artificial intelligence. It's like it starts out with good intentions, but I think we've steered them in a direction, and it's spiraled out of control with the like Mar Anthony said, I guess the individualistic, the free thought, and I'm not saying definitely you be free and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely we grew up in one unit, and I think they kind of took it, and it was kind of like, okay, well. I'm so free that I have to challenge you. Nothing you do is right. I see a problem, with everything, and I think that, that's kind of spilled over. The glass.
Well, I think the internet, everything else is just big business, right? So they'll tell you that anytime you start a business, just start it, because the idea that you have, if you have a success and you're steadily moving up the ladder, eventually it's going to be a completely different business from what you originally thought. You're going to move in a whole different direction. Time and all this stuff is going to change it. Excuse me. I think that's what happened with the internet. I think that's what happened with TikTok and all this stuff we saw as a platform for us to research and maybe communicate with people better and all this stuff. This is before YouTube and before Facebook and all this stuff, and the platforms we're on right now even came. And eventually, once it evolved, what happened was the younger generation was born into this. And once they're born into this, they don't see the same thing that we saw. Because they have a whole different thing to see, and it's simpler. You got kids now doing the Grubhub. We had this conversation about these kids who are trying to graduate high school and now become Grubhub drivers. Is it Grubhub? Am I saying it right? Uber Eats, all those things.
Yeah, all of them together.
You cannot make a man. You cannot become a man by thinking that's your full-time job. See, stuff like that, that's the negative side of it. And I'm going to say it loud. You can't be a man and Uber Eats is your full-time job. And you got a family, children, and all these things. See, that
views expressed on the Rebranders podcast and not reflect the views of all of us. Anthony Gibson.
Supplemental is fine. I'll take it supplemental. You done lost your job. You fell on hard times and I got to go do this now. I'll take that. But if you think that I'm going to sit around the house and just drive because I don't want anything, come on now. Let's be real. See, so when you open up opportunities like this, people are going to take every opportunity that's given. They're going to grab it no matter where they are. And so that's the problem I have is you grow kids up in that direction and they become more of that. And then what happens? Now you got lazy kids. Now you got kids who don't know how to communicate. That all they do is text. They shorthand text, LOL, all this stuff.
Again, man, I like what Martin said about the world of unity and the individualism that's in the world today. And I think I don't think it's just the kids; it's the adults. We talked about money a few minutes ago, and money itself, like you said, the Bible says it answers all things. But also, the Bible says, for the love of money
is the root of all evil.
Absolutely. So I think we have to be able to distinguish the two, right? And so if we're talking about for the love of money, and if the intent is to get money because of due to this particular thing, then guess what? That's for the love of money. It's not necessarily because I'm trying to get money. And so I think we grew up in the world of internet. Everything's fast paced. If you can get it immediately, like I said, we grew up in a place where our internet connection was dial up. So we had to wait a few seconds before we even got access to the internet, right? So
not a few.
Man, we're gonna take a bath and go out.
So we grew up in an era where patience was actually practice, and because you had to practice it. So now we have to. I'm bringing this up now because I believe that we're talking about solution based, being abundance, and being solution based, right? So we can stuff all day long. Some stuff we do have control over in our own households, right? You can't control what's going on in Anthony's house. Can't control what's going on in Dee Dee's house. You control what's going on in your house, right? So all you can do is do that, and collectively, that's how you make the change, right? So if we don't teach the kids patience, we don't teach these kids this and that. What we think is important in the world today, especially if you think everything is owed to you. Yeah, you're gonna become a more individualistic person because everything is about me. You know what I'm saying? We don't teach us about other people and how to treat other people right and respect other people, because now it's about, if you don't respect me, it's gonna be, you feel me? So I grew up where I grew up is I'm gonna show you respect even if you don't. Now I may not deal with you afterwards. That's totally on you because the way you treated me, how you interacted with me. But now it's for whatever.
Adrian woke up. I was trying to get you
Why I keep getting accused of going to sleep?
I wish I could rewind this thing for like 30 seconds.
Maybe for the next time we can do that.
Maybe so. Tonight we're talking about the remedy to racism. Actually, we're talking about that next week. We touched on it a little bit today. Children are different. We live in a completely different world. And I think we got to understand that. And in this world, we have more opportunity. How do we get those remedies? How do we convince people that we're not what they thought we were? Because I'm not going to say what we used to be, because we are what we used to be. We're probably not as good as what we used to be. So I think we need to think about those things. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We've had a good time tonight talking. Mar Anthony, we appreciate it. Leonard, we appreciate it. The people that are listening right now on YouTube or Facebook as well, we appreciate it. Eric, any last words?
Martin said we had taxi drivers too.
Yeah, he said don't knock the driving horses that we had taxi
Oh, I didn't even
drivers.
see that coming. I'll bring it up. We had taxi drivers too. Hey, look, what's funny is like 10 years ago, I went to New York City. Me and my parents, my mom, dad, Tony Goodson, Deborah Goodson. I got to say their names because they're watching. We were in New York City, and there was a big, I don't know if it was a rally or something, but anyway, they were protesting, I guess, about Uber. They were like, yeah, they got this new company coming to town, blah, blah, blah. It was all about Uber. And so we were sitting there with these Indian people with the hats and turbans and everything, and just sitting there having these long conversations with these people. They were really frustrated in their own language. It's the best thing in the world to see somebody be frustrated in their language. But anyway, I never would have imagined Uber would have put them completely out of business. Like there's few taxi drivers in New York City now. So the world is completely different. We're summoning strangers to pick us up and to ride in our car. The world has changed, y'all.
So, one last question, then we can end it for real. But out of these things we talking about that we feel like is important to instill in our families, in our individual families, what's one thing that what's one thing you would pick to instill in the community, our community, and then how would you go about teaching it?
Pride.
I think. Go ahead.
Pride. I would it could be one thing, it'd be pride. I think when you bring pride, it encompasses so much of the other stuff that we would need. Way we would teach it, we'd have to start with like it'll have to definitely be in the homes. It'll have to be actually part of a curriculum, maybe in our educational system. We would have to get a crowd. We'd have to have rather just like we try to get people to vote and stuff like that. We'd have to march for pride. We'd have to really bang that home. Rappers would have to get on commercials and talk about pride. We'd have to change our language and the way we speak to each other in order to get that across.
Black pride? Is that what you're talking about?
You know what? I wouldn't even say that. But, of course, that. But I think just pride for yourself, because I think if you have pride in yourself, I think black pride will automatically come because you would embrace you and you would know that black pride is what you need.
I think I could agree with you. That's probably what I would have said. Is something like understanding your consequences, and I think that the best thing that we could do for ourselves individually is to behave ourselves individually. It's the absolute best thing that we can do. And then once you grow up, you're 16, you're 17, you're 25, you're 30, you have children, and then you teach your kids the exact same thing, and then they teach their kids the exact same thing. The Bible said, leave something for your children's children. I think we all take that to be money, and maybe it says that, and I'm missing it. But I think the one thing you leave for your children's children is pride, respect, love, and honor, all those things. And if we can do that, then we have a generation, 2 generations ahead of us that can make us proud, in that pride that you're talking about. So I think that's probably the remedy, is every individual for himself in this, but we collectively do it individually, if that makes any sense at all. Eric?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying, and I like to take it even a little bit step further in regards to how you teach it, right? So you can say pride all alone, but I got to teach you what pride looks like for me, right? And Anthony got to tell you what pride looks like for him, and Ace got to tell you what pride looks like for him, and then we're going to collectively put that into a box, right? Maybe the top 10 things, and pride is going to look like this for our community or for our culture, for our society. But it's going to take conversations. That's how you teach it, in my opinion. You can't just say you need to have pride and then walk away. You know what I'm saying? Look at me. You got to be able to show it by what you do, but you also got to be able to talk about it as well. Because everybody don't learn just by seeing. Some people learn by auditory, things like that is in addition to. So I think that we have to take those things in consideration. What do you want to teach your kids? And then, because that's something important for you. So I think that's something important we should think about instilling into the community to increase the likelihood that we can save our community and our world, and or at least make it last longer in a way. So, and I think also one other thing I'm gonna say is that we have to teach ourselves and our kids how to not be so individualistic. And I say that because if you're in the household and your parents are making you feel important already, you don't have to go out. and look for somebody that's make it look important. You ain't got to go on TikTok. You ain't got to go on Instagram. You ain't got to go on Facebook. Hey, look what I can do. I can shake my butt. I got these guns. I got this and that. You already feel important because it's already been instilled in you. You know what I'm saying? Same thing about wives and husbands. If you make your wife feel important, she ain't got to go out there and look for nobody else. Make your husband feel important, he ain't got to go out and look for nobody else. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it has to be something we talk about it individually too. So how do we make each other feel important?
Absolutely. I think those are the ending words for us. Hey, thank y'all for joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun. We just kind of sat up and chit chat and did our own thing, but we've had a wonderful time with you guys tonight. Hey, Mar Anthony, we thank you again, and Leonard, we thank you again. Next week we're talking remedy to racism.
Helen
it's gonna
tuned
be a
in
real.
too.
What was that?
Oh, I said Helen tuned in too. I saw her creep in one time.
One time she ain't say nothing. No, forget Helen. She could have said how she thought we were gonna ask her to be on the show, but
ready.
Yeah. Hey, but for Kim, who's out tonight, we thank y'all for joining us. We'll see y'all next week.